right, so let's begin. Right. Welcome, Laura. Ah, and Christina's coming in. Welcome, Christina. I might as well just go back to the beginning. So today, this is our menu. Those have just arrived. We're going to be first 2 hours listening skills and subskills. We'll do a demo lesson and have a bit of a review of terms to do receptive skills. After the break, we'll focus on language in the classroom and error correction and set the first writing assignment. Hi. Start with listening then. So it's all about what we call subskills, and we'll look at tasks and stages in listening lessons. And you'll see that in some ways it's quite similar to reading. Right? And the framework is basically the same pre, while, and post. Now, I'd like you to look at these kinds of oral texts and check the ones that you have heard in the last 24 hours. Add any other texts you have just heard if they are not listed. Okay, for this, you're going to need your handbook open at page 46 or unit 9. And you're going to discuss in small groups which of these texts do learners need to understand? What knowledge does a learner need to understand these texts? So first of all, check to see if you've heard any of these in the last day. Soap opera. Do you know what a soap opera is? What do you call a soap opera in Mexico?
Novela.
Telenovela, yes. Yeah. Has to be on the television though, to be a soap opera. I guess it could be on the radio. So I'll give you a couple of minutes just to check the ones that you have heard in the last 24 hours. Now, a lecture is like in a university, and a lecture is usually read aloud. Right? So the university professor has his notes and gives the lecture on a topic. It's based on the Latin word lectio, right? Which is reading. But it's something we usually do aloud in voz alta in a university. Okay, so I'm going to put you into great breakout rooms to discuss these two questions. Which of these texts do learners need to understand? What knowledge does a learner need to understand these texts? Any questions about these texts before I put you into the breakout rooms? What is a service counter exchange?
Isn't it like when you go buy something to a store or well, a service like a dry cleaning?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe you want to send maybe a document via DHL, right, to Europe, and you go to the counter and say, I want to send this to, yeah. Oh yeah, I'll go to the dry cleaners, yeah. Or charge up your cell phone at OXO, that sort of thing. And they actually count as text because they're actually well, a dialogue, right? But a dialogue is a text. It's a piece of discourse. All right. So welcome to who's just arrived? Lucy. Welcome to Lucy. Can you hear me, Lucy?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, we're actually on Unit 9 in our TKT handbook. Okay, and we're considering which of these texts have you heard or listened to in the last 24 hours? All right. And now we're going to go into the breakout rooms and we're going to discuss these questions. Which do learners need to understand? What knowledge does a learner need to understand these texts? Okay, so let's do it. And you might also consider the difference between listening to something and hearing something. Now, when we listen to something, it's normally more active. We're paying more attention. Whereas hearing is more accidental. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to put you into breakout rooms. Let's do it for about 7 minutes. All right, let's ask Becca, Christina, and Jamie the first question.
Okay, it's which of these texts do learners need to understand? We thought that maybe on their own levels they can like understand each one of them, but for beginners, maybe like just instructions and a class, a lecture, announcement, but like on their own levels. I don't know.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the higher the proficiency of the students, the wider range of texts they're going to understand. Yeah. But I guess it's like which are more, it's more important that they actually understand more of the detail, yeah. So yeah, like instructions is pretty important, right? Uh, some of it's not so important, like a commercial, like an advertisement. Other important things might be an announcement because it might have something to do with their safety. Like if it's an announcement at an airport, you're in a bus station. Um, Other things they may not understand fully, like a lecture at a university. Maybe the terminology is too complicated. So they may only partially understand those things. Any other thoughts about that one? So let's go back to the second question now. Second question was what was it? What knowledge do you need to be able to understand these types of text? So Tadeo and Rosa, could you tell us what you thought about that?
Sure. Well, obviously, we also think that the students should be able to eventually understand each and every one of these texts, but like at the beginning, we believe they should be able to learn instructions, lectures, service counters exchange in case they find themselves in a foreign country, a class, a meeting, a personal introduction, and perhaps a simple conversation.
All right. And what about the second question then? What knowledge do we need to be able to understand them?
Oh, okay. Sorry.
It's all right.
Well, some of the things we believe the learner should know to understand this is understanding sounds like phonetics.
Yeah, at the basic level, right?
Yeah. And a little bit of a wider vocabulary
Mhm.
and at least basic grammar and idioms.
Yeah. What you've said so far is true, but it's very basic. I mean, what about wider knowledge of the world? Don't you think that's important?
Like experiences?
Well, yeah, what we call schemata.
What we call what, sorry?
Schemata, or background knowledge of the world.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's consider these. So students need to be able to deal with all the characteristics of spoken language. we use the context the language is spoken in and our knowledge of the world. We need to be able to understand different kinds of spoken text types, right? And sometimes we bring this knowledge from our first language. Yeah. We don't like students don't come to English like with no knowledge of the world at all, do they? A lot of their knowledge is formed through learning Spanish, right? And some of the text types and that knowledge will be useful to them when they actually come to learning English because it's not so different. Yeah. We understand different speeds of speech and accents. Now that will be different probably, yeah, between Spanish and English. And we need to have a reason to listen in order to use appropriate subskills to get information we need from the text. So we don't just listen in a vacuum, we listen purposefully. When we need to get information from the text. So this is where the difference between hearing and listening comes in, right? I can hear music playing on the construction site near my home, right? But I'm not actually paying attention to it. It's a disturbance, right? Nor am I getting information from that noise source. Right? So it's more casual in that case. So what are the characteristics of spoken texts? Well, first is that it disappears as soon as it's spoken. Sometimes it's spoken fast, sometimes slowly, with or without pauses. It shows sentences and meaningful groups of words through stress and intonation. It consists of connected speech, sentences, incomplete sentences, or single words. So speech is also not well organized. It contains interruptions, hesitations, repetitions, frequent changes of topic. So these are things that can make listening to spoken text difficult, right? Now, the speaker also uses body language to support his or her communication. For example, gestures. In Mexico, we often use this to say thank you, don't we? So movement of hands or arms to help people understand us, and facial expressions. Yeah, maybe moving our eyebrows up when we're surprised. This helps the listener to understand what the speaker is saying. And this is one thing that can make telephone conversations or listening to radio more difficult, right? Because we don't have those clues. And speakers often use rather general vocabulary and simple grammar because more specialized vocabulary and complex grammar requires more thinking time. And when we're speaking, we often spend less time thinking and formulating, especially in a second language, you know. So it's when we're giving speaking tasks, for example, it's often better to keep them simple. All right, now we're going to give a demo. We're going to have a demo lesson in listening in which you're going to participate as the students. Okay. Okay, so question. Are you planning to leave your hometown for a vacation this year? Hands up anyone who's planning to leave your hometown for a vacation this year. Lucy, where are you going?
I'm going to, I don't know if either we're going to Villa del Carbón or Querétaro.
Ah,
I'm on a vacation with my friends.
now, have you already booked or made a reservation?
Yeah, we've already reserved. Yeah, we went through Airbnb and booked a house.
Ah. Now, so is that going to be all-inclusive or self-catering when you go to B&B, Airbnb?
It's going to be self-catering.
Oh, very good. Yeah, whereas if you go to I don't know, for a hotel in Acapulco, it's probably going to be the other one, isn't it? All-inclusive.
Yep.
Yeah. Which tend to be more expensive, all-inclusive or self-catering?
Usually self-catering.
Are more expensive self-catering?
Yeah.
Or is it all-inclusive that's more expensive? Okay. Now, let's I'm going to give you each before we do the listening, going to give you each a slide. Actually, I'm going to have you work in pairs. So have Rebecca and Rosa work together. Okay, and I want you to match these vocabulary terms or this lexis to the definitions. Right? You'll notice that they're also parts of speech here. Right? So you've got to get that right as well. So slide 2 is Rebecca and Rosa. Slide 3 is Christina and Jamie. Slide 4 is Tadeo and Lucy. All right, so I'd like you to work together. Now, if your partner's not there, well, you're going to have to work alone. All right. I'm going to give you the link to the slide here. Coming into the chat now. Please click on, give me a thumbs up to confirm that you have it. Thank you. All right, so work together to try to match them. I'm not going to put you into breakout rooms because it won't take very long. All right, just you don't even have to speak. I mean, you can communicate by chat, but the tricky thing is moving the little arrows. Yeah, you have to pull them and stretch them. Right. Yeah, well, good job, everyone. So last minute holiday, as Rebecca and Rosa say, is the last possible vacation possibility for having a vacation. Last minute holiday. Christina and Jamie, £500. Notice this sign is pounds, British pounds. Yeah. Equivalent to about 12,000 Mexico pesos. And fairly quiet place is an average peaceful location. Yeah. And last, self-catering. It's with cooking facilities available, so you can cook meals for yourself. Okay, so this together makes the adjective, self-catering, and the noun is accommodation. What's the adverb in number 3, Rosa?
Sorry, I can't
In-
listen.
In number 3, fairly quiet place, which is the adverb?
Fairly.
No, it's fairly, yes. Well, fairly, yes. You can usually tell because it's an ly at the end, right? And the adjective is quiet. And there, last is the adjective, right? A minute and holiday and the nouns. Now we're going to work on the pronunciation a little bit here. Okay, you're going to hear me read out these expressions, and I want you to categorize them according to the stress pattern, right? The big zero, big fat zero, is where the main stress is, right? The little zero is a syllable. In fact, they're all syllables, but the big zero is the stressed syllable, right? So read out the words to yourself silently. Self-catering. Last minute. £500. Fairly quiet. Count the number of syllables. How many syllables in self-catering? Say the word to yourself. Count them on your fingers. Self-catering. How many? I get 4, right? So it can either go in the second, third or the fourth column. All right. Now I'm going to play the audio and you decide. Now, Rebecca and Rosa, you're working on slide 5. Christina and Jamie, slide 6. Tadeo and Lucy, slide 7. All right. Okay, so I'm going to play it now. There you go. Self-catering. Self-catering. Last minute. Last minute. Fairly quiet. Fairly quiet. £500. £500. Self-catering. All right, so I'll just play it one more time in case you didn't get it the first time. Self-catering. Self-catering. Last minute. Last minute. Fairly quiet. Fairly quiet. £500. £500. All right, so let's check answers. So last minute is the one with 3 syllables. That's correct. The first is self-catering. Yeah. Good. But fairly quiet. Would be this one because you've got 4 syllables in total, but the stress is on the first syllable in each word. The main stress, fairly quiet. £500 would be the one in the middle because we stress the 5 to differentiate it. £500. Okay, let's repeat them. Last minute, everybody, repeat. Last minute.
Last minute.
Self-catering.
Self-catering.
Good. £500.
£500.
Fairly quiet.
Fairly quiet.
Okay, good. Now, you're going to hear these words in the audio, so that's why I taught them. Right? So the first thing is Andy and Fiona are planning to have a holiday. Predict the holiday they're planning. So is it a last minute holiday or a break next year? Is it that they don't know where to go or they know exactly where they want to go? Is it that they have agreed how much they will spend or they haven't talked about how much they will spend? Okay, so take a piece of paper and write 1, 2, 3, and then write down your prediction. Is it A or B for each one? Okay, so then I'm going to play the audio, and after the audio is done, I want you to, into the chat, share with everyone your answer. All right, whether you think it's 1 is A or B, 2 is A or B, 3 is A or B. Are you ready? Okay, let's play.
Module 6, Recording 10.
We'd like to get away for a little bit, last-minute holiday, just a quick break.
Okay, so if I can just ask a few questions.
Okay.
Just to find out the kind of thing you're looking for, and then I can feed in your details into our database and see what we can offer you. Right, so when would you like to go?
Well, I think it'll have to be the last week in June.
The last week in June. Oh, I see. Quite soon. Next week, in fact, isn't it?
Yes, well...
Okay, no problem. And how long are you planning to go away for?
Oh, just a week. We haven't got that much time,
Right, okay. So what kind of place would you like to go to? Have you got any ideas?
Well, I thought maybe Spain, so we don't have to go too far. Spain, perhaps, or Greece, maybe. As long as it's hot, I don't mind.
Right. So is it a beach holiday you want, or something else?
Yes, I think we'd like to be near a beach, really.
Are you looking for somewhere quiet?
Fairly quiet.
But not too quiet. I think we'd prefer it if there was somewhere to go in the evening.
Oh, right, I see. So, how many people are going to travel?
Just the two of us.
See?
I think I'd like to go somewhere a bit more exotic. Somewhere like Thailand or somewhere. A bit more exciting.
Right, okay. Well, of course, we have plenty of holidays there, but the price is obviously going to be higher. How much would you like to pay?
Well, I'm not sure. Maybe £500 each?
How much?
Well, maybe £500 per person?
Right. Well, of course, it also depends on the accommodation. Do you want self-catering, or would you rather stay in a hotel?
Self-catering, definitely.
Right. So, self-catering it is. Now, let's see what we can come up with.
So put your answers in the chat, please. Yeah, so most of you are right so far. Christina, Rebecca, Tadeo. Yes, it's AAB. Correct. Okay, now we're going to listen a second time. And you'll see that there are missing words on the slide here. Okay, so each student has a slide. Christina, yours is 9. Jamie, yours is 10. Rebecca, yours is 11. Rosa, yours is 12. Tad's, yours is 13. Okay. Can you confirm you have access to your slides before we start the audio? Just study the gaps. Try and figure out what type of word is missing. You'll notice that they're often adjectives or nouns. Yeah, so listen carefully for those adjectives or nouns. And some of them are actually the words that we looked at the beginning of the lesson. So try and use your powers of anticipation. Very good. Tadeo's anticipating. Good. Right, so let's listen and check.
Module 6, Recording 10.
We'd like to get away for a little bit. Last-minute holiday, just a quick break.
Okay, so if I can just ask a few questions,
Okay.
just to find out the kind of thing you're looking for, and then I can feed in your details into our database and see what we can offer you. Right, so when would you like to go?
Well, I think it'll have to be the last week in June.
The last week in June. Oh, I see. Quite soon. Next week, in fact, isn't it?
Yes, well,
Okay, no problem. And how long are you planning to go away for?
oh, just a week. We haven't got that much time, you know.
Right, okay. So what kind of place would you like to go to? Have you got any ideas?
Well, I thought maybe Spain, so we don't have to go too far. Spain, perhaps, or Greece, maybe. As long as it's hot, I don't mind.
Right. So is it a beach holiday you want, or something else?
Yes, I think we'd like to be near a beach, really.
Are you looking for somewhere quiet?
Fairly quiet.
But not too quiet. I think we'd prefer it if there was somewhere to go in the evening.
Oh, right, I see. So, how many people are going to travel?
Just the two of us.
See?
You know, I think I'd like to go somewhere a bit more exotic. Somewhere like Thailand or somewhere. You know, a bit more exciting.
Right, okay. Well, of course, we have plenty of holidays there, but the price is obviously going to be higher. How much would you like to pay?
Well, I'm not sure. Maybe £500 each?
How much?
Well, maybe £500 per person?
Right, well, of course, it also depends on the accommodation. Do you want self-catering, or would you rather stay in a hotel?
Self-catering, definitely.
Right, so self-catering it is. Now, let's see what we can come up with.
All right, so got about a minute just to finish writing your answers. Good job. I'm going to put you into the breakout rooms quickly so you can compare your answers together. Very quickly, like 2 minutes. Please go in. Just check you've got similar answers. All right, so this is correct. Christina, last minute. And only for a quick break. The two countries were Spain or Greece, or perhaps somewhere a little more exotic and exciting like Thailand. Looking for what type of holiday is it? It's you missed that one, except for Tadeo, a beach holiday. Not too quiet, it's only for two people. Yeah, adjective is quiet there. You missed that, some of you. And it can spend around £500 per person. They want self-catering, not only accommodation. Yeah. Good. Now, so that's a listening, which you did pretty well. Next stage is I'd like you to work in the same groups and choose a suitable holiday destination for the kings. Right, this pareja that you've just heard talking. Right, so you'll see this is on your handbook. It's actually page 47, and you've got to think of 3 suitable holiday destinations for the Fiona and Andy King. And remember, it's only £500 per person that they have. Yeah, around £500. I guess they can go a bit up or a bit below. So which do you think might be most suitable? Look at the prices. How long is it for? Whether it's self-catering or all-inclusive. All right, I'm going to send you this same text through the chat, so it's a bit easier to work with. There we go. Okay, I'll give you. So think about the length of the stay, the country. It should be a beach holiday with some nightlife, and the type of accommodation. I'll give you about 4 minutes to discuss in your breakout rooms. Opening now. Tad and Rosa chose Turkey, Mexico, and Spain. Were you the same, Christina, Rebecca, and Tadeo? Sorry, and Jamie?
Yes,
Chris-
we choose that places too. Those places too.
Great. Now, I'm going to split you into travel agents and tourists. And you're going to do a little role play. Okay. So, the travel agents will be, please, Tad and Rosa. The tourists will be Rebecca, Christina, and Jamie. Okay. Now, you'll see that there are role play cards. In the teaching materials that I sent you. It's also on the handbook. All right, so student A is going to be the travel agents. Student B is the tourists. Okay, so I want you to read those for a couple of minutes. Now, if you're the travel agent, you should read and try to make questions from the prompts, right? B, you're the holiday makers or tourists, and you should try and think up some details like the length of holiday. What else could you think about? Length of holiday, the place to visit that you want to go to, the type of accommodation, and the price. Yeah. So I'll give you a minute or two to think about those. All right, so now you've thought about being travel agent and a holiday maker, I'm going to put you together. So you've got one travel agent and one holiday maker. Bex and Tadeo, you're going together. Jamie and Rosa. Okay, so I'd like you to pretend to be those people and negotiate try and decide on a suitable holiday based on those different options that you've just seen, right? The 8 different options. Which do you think will be the most appropriate? Okay, so I'll give you a maximum of 7 minutes to do this, so you have to do it fairly quickly. Okay, time's up. Right, Rebecca and Tad, what did you decide on? What would be the best option for Rebecca?
Hello. So let's see. Rebecca is looking for a city holiday, preferably with museums. She's looking to travel for about 2 weeks with, let's say, 3 people. And for accommodations, she is looking for a hotel and wants to go to a place with a lot of touristic attractions. And for money, she doesn't have like a limited budget, so that's awesome, I guess.
Oh.
And so we think that the best options from the list would be Florida because it has, well, it has beaches, it has a city, great nightlife. It's kind of expensive, but that's okay. And if you wanted to go intercontinental, you could go to Tokyo, Japan. Also a great
Oh.
city, also a lot of museums. And it's
Also very expensive.
also very expensive, yeah. But I've heard they have a nice culture, so
Good. Good choices. Jamie and Rosa. Rosa, what did Jamie go for eventually?
Well, Jamie wants to go to the beach for 2 persons for her honeymoon. And she wants to go for 5 or 6 days. She likes nightlife, doesn't have limit for the price. She wants all inclusive. And I choose Turkey.
Sounds good. Yes, I hear Turkey is good value for money. And it has some
Yes.
interesting historical sites. Great. Okay, so let's just finish the lesson with a little bit of error correction. Someone said 5-star hotel. That was great. That's a good way of modifying the noun with the gion here, 5-star. Notice bed and breakfast is where you just get the room for the night plus breakfast in the morning, but there's no other food, right? Half board is a bit more because then you get lunch as well. So you get breakfast, you get the bed, you get lunch. That's half board, but you don't get dinner. Tad said, I think what you meant was a city break, right?
yeah, well, depends. City break is when you go to a city.
Yeah, just like for the weekend, like Querétaro for the weekend, or
Oh,
or Puebla. Yeah.
sorry, teacher. Was your screen kind of blinking weird, or is my laptop dead?
It could be both. I don't know.
No.
All right. And then notice accommodation. If you're in the United States, it's common to hear accommodations, right? Yeah, it's countable. But in British English, it's usually uncountable. So we don't hear the S on the end. Just a little tip. So this is the sort of thing we have to be aware of as teachers, sometimes the differences culturally and within languages. So that's the end of our lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, we're going to do a little breakdown of the lesson itself, and I'd like you to put your teacher's hat on now. You're no longer students, right? Be teachers again. So if we go back to our trainees booklet, oops, that's not right. Let me just get the one up. Okay, the trainer booklet says, task 2, it says, in small groups, look back to the activities in the listening demo and complete the table. This is page 49. All right, so looks like this. Okay, I'm going to put you into small groups. Well, I'll put you in pairs and think about what the teacher did before learners listened to the audio, while they listened, and after they listened. Right? So what did the teacher do? Consider the pre, the while, and the post. Okay. To make it a little bit easier, because it's difficult at times, isn't it? Because you have to be, you're trying to be students, but now you're trying to be teachers. So it can be a bit of a mind twister. So here's the link to the presentation, the materials, and I'll also give you the lesson plan. All right. So that will help you to fill in this table. I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to fill in as much of the table as you can. Just make notes about what the teacher did at each of those stages. What did they do in the pre-stage? The while, the post. Any doubts before we go into the breakout room? I'll have you work with your existing partner. I'll give you 10 minutes.
Ingat. Oh, hello.
Well, you did pretty well there.
Thank
Now,
you.
Rebecca and Jamie, can you tell us? Was it no? Did you work together? Let me just check. You actually worked together. No, it was Jamie and Rosa. Can you tell us what goes on in the pre?
Well, we put that in the pre, we check if they understand all the vocabulary of the activity, the
All the
questions.
vocabulary?
Well, the not all the vocabulary, but the main idea of the
Well, which vocabulary words do we choose? Would you say?
maybe the vocabulary that you
Is it easy vocabulary that I checked, or is it more difficult vocabulary?
Maybe
more
it could
difficult.
be, oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Maybe it could be like the self-catering, like not all of us know what was that.
Yes.
Maybe it could be that one.
That's right. We may not know the meaning, we may not know the form or even the pronunciation. Self-catering, right?
Yes.
Mm.
And actually started with CCQs. Like
Right.
started asking questions about our next trip.
So that's the meaning, the catering. Yeah, I'll ask. So there's a definition. Then we check the form. Is it which part of that is the adjective and which is a noun, and then the pronunciation, right? So we pre-teach meaning, form, and pronunciation of maybe 3 or 4 difficult pieces of Lexis. And why do we do that? Well, because we don't want the students to get blocked, right?
Yes.
Because if they hear a word they don't understand, it's like, oh, I don't understand that. And they often use that as an excuse or whatever to shut down, right? And not understand. So that's why it can be useful to pre-teach. But before the pre-teaching, is there anything else? Do we do anything? What about the lead in? What did we do? What did we do in the lead in? Have a look at the lesson plan if you're not sure. You notice it in the lesson plan here. It says, what does it say? Rebecca, can you help us?
In the handbook?
No, in this lesson plan I sent you through the chat. Anyone got the lesson plan? Rosa's nodding. Can you see what it says?
Oh. In the pre?
No, in the lead in. What does it say in the lead in?
Wait.
In the lesson plan.
Elicit from students where and if they are planning to leave their hometown city for a vacation this year. Board some of the vocabulary relevant to this lesson. Book,
Right.
vacation, holiday, all-inclusive, self-catering. Keep this brief and move on to vocabulary clarification.
Yeah, so that's a lead in, right? It's what we call the lead in. It's to get students activated, interested in the topic, right? So that's why I asked, are you planning to go on vacation someplace this year? I think it was, who was it that said Querétaro? Was it you, Rosa? All right, so then we did the pre-teaching. What comes after the pre-stage? Tad, can you tell us? Tad and Jamie, no, Tad and Rebecca and Christina.
Yes, hello.
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you ask? I was fixing some stuff.
What comes in the while stage in this lesson that we saw
Okay.
today?
Okay, it is while we listen to the audio, correct?
right?
Okay,
And
so we put that we listened to the audio. We paid attention to understand the context of the new lexis that we learned on the previous stage.
no, that's not it. It's nothing to do with Lexis. It's to do with subskills. So what is the first subskill that we practice? Is it listening for detail? Is it listening for gist? Is it listening for specific information?
Yeah, listening for specific information.
No, it's not. Not
Really?
What's the first one? What's the first one we do? Let's have a look at the lesson again. I'll get this up. Okay, so what type of this was the first listening that we did, right? Think about your reading lesson. Your reading lessons. What's the first type of reading that we do? Do we go directly into reading for detail or do we do reading for gist first? Rosa, I can hear you speaking, but you're
It's
muted.
a quickly reading.
Yeah, it's a quick reading, isn't it? Right? It's what we call reading for gist. Yeah, it's for the general idea, to get a general understanding. And so it is with listening, right? All the time they need to listen twice. Once for gist, and then a second time for a different type of listening, right? So this one is what? Tadeo?
The first one was for gist.
This is for gist, yeah. It's to get the general idea.
Okay.
Yeah, you notice it's not details. Okay. And then what is the second then?
The second knowledge.
Is it listening for detail or listening for specific information?
I think the second would be listening for specific information, right?
Yes, because we're listening for like individual words or facts, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that you can actually hear in the text, right? You can actually hear these words. It doesn't actually require interpretation because that would be more like listening for detail. But this is specific information, yeah. And most of the time, at a lower level, that's what you will be developing their listening skills in, is like listening for specific words, right? So they can extract information from the listening. That makes sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's what you should have. 2 listening tasks every time, right? And that's what you saw in this lesson. No. And of course, there's feedback on those as well, isn't there? Now on to room Jamie and Rosa. What goes on in the post stage? What happened in the post stage in today's lesson? Can you tell us?
We check the answers.
No, well, no, that would be in the while stage because you get feedback on the listening. Okay, but the post stage is the third stage of the lesson. Were we doing speaking or writing? In the third stage of the lesson. It was speaking, wasn't it? Do you know what that kind of speaking activity is? What's it called? The speaking activity we did at the end of the lesson.
Role playing.
It's a role play, exactly, yeah. That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
So role play. So we did the role play, which involves a certain number of stages that you need to set up, right? So they had the text to work with, the different holidays, then they had the role play cards. So I had to give you the opportunity, right, to study those role play cards. So then they did the role play. What happens at the end? Of the role play, they've done the role play, they've spoken, they've acted it out. What does the teacher do at the end? Look on the lesson plan if you're not sure. Have a look at the lesson plan. What's the final thing that the teacher does after the students have done the role play? Tadeo, you mentioned it earlier.
After the role playing,
Yeah, what does the teacher do?
you listened for you gave us feedback, sorry, and you asked us if we had any trouble, right?
Right, yeah. So there's yeah, I get some feedback on how well you did the role play, and also give you some delayed error correction.
Exactly.
DEC it's called, yeah?
Delayed error, yep.
Error correction, yeah? And that was some comments about accommodation, how it can be a countable noun or a
Also,
an uncountable.
after the role play, you also taught us some other words that are related but not originally in the lesson, like cityscape.
A city break, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, like the city break and the half board.
That's right. So that can be used as an opportunity to give you some more vocabulary, right? This is how students learn, right? By using, and then the teacher figures out what is missing from their vocabulary, yeah, when they do some speaking. So good, you did that very well. Okay, so just going to give you some general rules for teaching a listening lesson. So the first one would be to introduce the topic dealt with in the listening text. This can be done through brainstorming the topic, asking learners to predict information they will hear, talking about the topic or an image illustrating the text or topic. Yeah. Notice by topic, we're not talking about the language point here. We're talking about, in my lesson, it was planning holidays. That's the topic. Yeah. Alternatively, the teacher may also pre-teach some lexical items the learners may not know and are part of the text. That's what I did. I wouldn't say it's alternative. I think it can be both, right? You activate the knowledge about the type of text and topic, and then do some pre-teaching as well. The teacher sets the first listening task. This usually involves listening for the gist. Notice the pronunciation, gist. It's not gist, gist. It's the general idea. And they answer some questions. These are usually easier. You know, it could be selecting an image that best suits the information they just heard. Okay, so this gives the chance to the students to kind of tune in to the listening. The teacher then sets the second listening task. This usually involves listening to find specific information and answer a set of questions. True or false statements, match pictures, follow directions using a map, etc. Alternatively, learners may read the text in greater detail and answer the questions. Select a picture according to a description, etc. I think that's wrong. It should may listen to the text in greater detail and answer questions. And finally, the teacher gives another activity that relates in some way to the topic and/or language of the text. This does not involve listening to the text again, but rather reacting to it. So giving their opinion, sharing similar information in a personal context, role-playing a similar situation. And that's what we did today, wasn't it? Any doubts so far?
I have one from a teaching point of view.
Go ahead.
This document that you sent us, the lesson planning, I think you called it.
The lesson plan, yes.
Do we as teachers have to fill one of these before every lesson?
No, this is a this is a more sophisticated lesson plan that we use on a different course, but I mean, you could use this tool if you wanted to, but it's not necessary. We will give you the lesson planning format.
Okay, but would you recommend like trying to organize it like this so we have like a more straightforward lesson when we are teaching?
Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter which tool you can use. You can use it in Word, or you can use it in using this this app called English Lesson Planner, but it's still going to produce a very similar lesson with pre, while, and post stages.
Oh, no, what I meant when I asked by tool, I meant the lesson plan because, well, most of the times when I give lessons to my friends or family, I usually improvise.
Ah, no, but now you're on IHC, you need to be using a lesson plan.
Okay,
Yeah. And that's what you'll do.
perfect.
But don't worry, you'll get guidance on that.
Okay.
Okay. Good question now, Tadeo. Now,
Thanks.
I'd like you to discuss these questions with a different partner this time. So I'd like you to consider, what is the purpose of the pre-listening stage? How many listening tasks do learners do? What is the purpose of having different tasks? Why does the teacher let students check their answers together before checking with the whole class during the while listening stage? Why is it a good idea to follow a listening activity with another activity about the same topic and/or language? Well, you know, I don't think we're going to have time to go into breakout rooms because it's already 10:47. So we could do this as a group. And in a way, we've kind of discussed them already, haven't we? So what is the purpose of the pre-listening stage?
Maybe could be introducing the topic or find out about the context of the topic.
Yeah, it's important to what we say, the technical terms, it's called activating their schemata, right? It's like what they already know about this topic will help them with the actual listening. Activating their background knowledge. Yeah, so they're not going into the listening cold. So that's important. So it's activating background knowledge, or schemata as it's called. I'll put that in the schemata is like your concepts about the world, your prior knowledge that you've lived through, your experiences, knowledge of the world, yes. And also to pre-teach some vocabulary that might cause a block in their understanding. So that's what we do in the pre-listening. How many listening tasks do learners do?
2.
2. What's the purpose of having different tasks?
The first one is for having the main idea, and
Yeah.
the second one is for answer.
Yeah, and that's how we listen in the real world, right? We generally with our students we need to develop this process to listening and reading that begins from the big picture, right? That's called the top down, right? So our knowledge of the world, knowledge of how the text works, the general ideas before we go into the specific, right? So general first and then specific. Why does the teacher let students check their answers together before checking with the whole class during the while listening stage?
It's to give them a chance to get peer correction, peer feedback, I think it's called.
Yeah, exactly. Learn from each other. Remember, this is not testing, right? We're developing these skills, which requires input, practice, reflection, right? So they need to kind of consider how well they did, and maybe learn from a stronger student. So that's a good reason to do it. And finally, why is it a good idea to follow a listening activity with another activity about the same topic and or language?
To check all the vocabulary or to review the vocabulary.
Partly, but not wholly.
To reinforce the knowledge.
Well, it's partly to reinforce what they've listened to or read so that they have an opportunity to respond. But think about how we listen and speak in real life. We're often, after we've listened to a text, we often talk about it. Right? We've listened to a radio broadcast, we talk about it with someone. Right? We read a newspaper article, we discuss it with someone. Right? So in real life, we're often mixing skills together. Right? So you often have a receptive skill and productive skill go together. Right? So it allows the students to develop, well, other skills in other areas, not just receptive, because doing receptive can be a little bit passive as well, can't it? Yeah, we want to get students more engaged in the lesson. So it's a balance of activities. You've got your input and then you've got your production. Okay, so here's a summary. Pre-listening, you've got an introduction to the topic of the text. You've got activities focused on the language. It's usually vocabulary, the text. While listening, series of comprehension activities developing different listening subskills. Usually activities that involve reading, sorry, that should be listening to the text and getting information from. And you're moving from general to more specific. Activities which ask the learners, this is post, about how a topic in the text relates to their own lives, or give opinion on parts of the text. These activities also require the learners to use some of the language they have met in the text. But not all, eh? It's not, you shouldn't be worrying about whether they're using all the language in the text. That's not the point, the full point, right? It's more important that they get the opportunity to respond to the topic. Any doubts so far? Okay. We just need to finish. Here are some different types of listening activities. You might want to, guess you could make a screenshot of this. And just take one and send it to you. Oh. Ah, here it is. Okay, just a quick few points about listening subskills. When we listen, we do not necessarily pay attention to every word we hear. We listen to any information depending on why and how we listen. And we listen to different text types and for different reasons. So I'd like you to match the type of listening subskill to its definition. Now, this is on the handout in the handbook. It's on the next page. Oops. So okay, so page 50. And you have to match the type of listening subskill to its definition. So what is listening for gist? What is listening for specific information? What is listening for detail? What is listening to determine the speaker's attitudes and feelings? Which is listening to focus on the language? Okay, let's ask people then. Jamie, which is listening for gist? Christina, what's listening for gist?
I think listening for gist is when we understand the general idea of what we are listening to, not the specific or detailed information.
Yeah, and that needs to come before any other of these subskills, yeah? Good job. And Rebecca, which is listening for specific information?
It's when we focusing on an aspect of vocabulary, grammar, or pronunciation and not the meaning.
No. No, that's not right. So what's listening for specific information? Roadside, do you know?
When we want, no, when we are focusing on an aspect of vocabulary.
No, that's not specific information.
Yes.
It's when we listen for only one piece of information.
That's right, yeah. Like in today's lesson when we were listening out for the names of those countries like Spain or Greece, right? But we were filtering out the other information. We're just like listening out for those key words, weren't we? Okay, what's listening for detail, Tadeo?
I would say that listening for detail would be when we com I am between when we comprehend all or part of the text in detail or when we are focusing on an aspect of vocabulary.
Okay, which you're going to go for?
The first one, because the second
Yes.
one is number 5.
That's right, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that
That's
looks
correct. And listening to determine speakers' attitudes or feelings, Rebecca, which one would that be?
When we want to know how the speakers are thinking or feeling.
Yeah, that involves inferring, right? And so the final one is listening to focus on language, right? Now, we don't often do this when we're listening to our own language, right? Because we already know it. We usually do this when we're studying a second language, right? And we're using the text to focus on maybe some vocabulary or grammar. But this isn't really, truth be told, it's not really a listening skill. It's more like a thing that teachers do with students. Yeah. So it's more like a pedagogical listening. It's a teaching listening to focus on language. Yeah. So we usually save that for grammar and vocabulary lessons when we're using a text to introduce some language later on. Does that make sense? Hope it does. Okay, let's finish this section on listening with the practice task from the TKT. I'd like you to match the instructions with the ways of listening A to G. There's one extra option which you do not need to use. Okay, I'm going to give you about how many? There are 6 items. Should take you about 4 minutes. I'll set the timer. And after we're done this, we go for our break, okay? So 4 minutes starts now. Because this is going to come up on the TKT, so we need to be ready for it.
Teacher, when we finish, did you say we have to put it in the chat?
Please, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. Time is up. Tadeo, you were right. One is B, so that's understanding body language. Two is what we would do in a pronunciation, bit of pronunciation teaching. So it's listening for individual sounds, discriminating between sounds. What town does Jim live in? Listen and find out. That's correct, Tadeo. It was listening for specific information, right? Because we're given this task while we're listening. We've got to listen out for the name of the town, right? Is it London? Is it Birmingham? Is it Monterey? Right? So that's it. Listen to the description of the boy and the girl and draw them. That would be listening for detail, yeah. It's kind of very intense sort of listening, isn't it? Or you following the instructions and so on. Listen and underline the word in the sentence that the speaker says most strongly. It would be the sentence stress. It was a bit like the pronunciation activity we did today, but that was in a word, not a sentence. Listen to the story and decide which the best title is. Listening for gist. Correct. Because the title summarizes the text, the audio. Any questions or doubts? Okay, let's take a break. I'll see you back at 11:30 when we'll continue with, what are we doing after the break? Language in the classroom and error correction.